Our book reading this morning, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. It's in chapter 9, How to Make Powerful Presentation. Yesterday we looked at the presentation process, where it taught us that after you've established rapport and trust with your customer and also clearly identify what the problems and needs of your customers are, then you can go ahead to properly present what you have to offer. And it's also taught us that before your presentation, you have to get your customer or your prospect to agree to what you people will be talking about and laying down objectives, telling them about your product and service. It also taught us that your presentation should move from general to particular, that is explaining your product and services, how it was developed, your company, how long you've been in the market, and explaining different approaches that company or that client can use for your product, when using your product and services. It also gave us examples of questions you can ask to get feedback and also confirm that your customer or your prospect is actually following what you're saying or understands what you're saying. I gave an example of a teacher that is in class that is teaching his or her students, and they ask questions like, do you understand? Do you get it? Any questions? So those kind of questions should be asked for confirmation to know if your client or your prospect is actually following what you're saying or understanding the presentation you're giving. So today on page 346, we'll continue from there, still on the presentation process. So it is essential that you become comfortable with silence during sales conversation. Most salespeople are so nervous and uneasy that they continually leap in with additional comments and never give the customer a chance to absorb the information being presented. Remember this: the teaching takes place with the words, but the learning takes place in the silence. Whenever you ask a customer a question, either a partial close or a full close, or for any critical piece of information, you must remain perfectly silent afterward until the customer answers. Sometimes the customer's mind will be racing as he formulates the correct response. You must wait patiently until the customer responds to your questions. Otherwise, there's no point in asking questions at all, and they lose their force and effect in the sales conversation. We are conditioned to answer when we are asked something. From infancy, our parents train us to speak when we are spoken to answer questions when we are asked them. As adults, we automatically answer questions when somebody asks us. We must not answer them aloud, but we answer them to ourselves. If the questionnaire remains silent long enough, the other person will eventually express the answer aloud. For example, here's a question for you. What kind of a car do you drive? Without thinking, you instantly answer that question in your own mind. You immediately saw a picture of your car, and you might even have thought simultaneously about how you bought it, what you liked about it, where it is right now, and the condition it is in. The question itself triggers a whole train of thought, even though you never said a word. And it is the same with every question you ask your customers. They will answer to themselves even if they don't say anything to you. You already know that features arouse interest while benefits arouse desire. When you describe a feature of your product, you must combine it immediately with a benefit for the prospect. with an answer to the question, what is in it for me? A simple three-step method of proceeding through your sales presentation consists of describing the product's feature, the product's benefits, and then the customer's benefit. The product feature is what has been designed and built into the product so that it is capable of achieving a particular purpose. The product benefit is why it makes your product better than something else or nothing at all. The customer benefit is what is in it for him, how he personally is better off by using it. You use the word because of this, you can dash dash, which means dash dash. For example, in describing a widescreen television, you might say, because of this rear skin projection device, that is a product feature, you can see from everywhere in the room, that is product benefit, which means that the whole family can enjoy movies at home, that is customer benefit. The most important part of this presentation method is contained in the words that follow, which means dash dash dash. You must continually link the features of your product into specific benefits that the customer will enjoy and that he considers important based on your early conversation, which means dash 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 answers the prospect's unspoken questions. So what? The fastest way to kill a sales conversation is to describe features without linking them to benefits, or to talk about benefits that are of no interest to the customer. This is why you must be continually showing, telling, and asking questions. You must ask for regular feedback so that you can be sure that you and the customer are still on the same wavelength. During the presentation, the power of suggestion is very strong. You use the power of suggestion by continually talking about how happy the prospect will be when he begins using your product. This is a form of talking past the sales, and it is based on the fact that customers make buying decisions based on how they anticipate feeling when they are using and enjoying what you're selling. When you're creating vivid word description of the pleasure they will experience, once they have purchased your product, they begin to project themselves into the picture as well. For example, you could say, your staff will be so happy at how quietly this machine works and how little maintenance it requires. You will love the way this car corners and grips the road, especially on rainy days. When this computer program, with this computer program, you just boot it up, press the command, and you will have all your sales figures for the previous day. When your customers see that you're using this process, they will never think of buying from anyone else. These positive, suggestive statements are so important that you must plan and rehearse them in advance. Your aim is to take your prospect during your presentation to the point that he is already thinking about acquiring and using your product. You want to put him in the picture, and you do it by creating vivid emotional image that describes the pleasure and satisfaction he will enjoy once he gets your product. Where there are weaknesses in your product and there are strengths in your competitor's product, don't be afraid to point them out. You should assume that your customer is going to ask for a complete sales presentation from your most aggressive competitor, and that his competitor will tell your customer everything about your product and the deficiency. When you tell your customer in advance where your product might be weaker relative to a competitor's, your competitors gain very little from pointing out the same weakness during this presentation. In addition, when you explain a weakness that your product has, you can also show that based on what the customer really wants, this weakness is not important. Today, in our high-tech age, many salespeople push their products by telling the customers about all the extra features they have when compared to others that are available in the market. The smart salesperson comes in after and points out that the customer never uses these additional features anyway, so why pay extra for them? This type of approach can kick the chair out from under your competitor's strongest argument, but you must be prepared. Okay, this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning. Still continue from the presentation process. So today is teaching us that we must become comfortable with silence as salespeople, as a salesperson. You have to be comfortable with silence during your sales conversation. What it means is when you ask question, it's advisable to keep silent and listen to the answers that your customers will answer. It's not when you ask questions and maybe you wait for like some seconds and they're not answering, then you can start your presentation again. You just have to be patiently silent and wait for them to think it through, think it over before giving you an exact answer. Because from those answers they are going to give you, you might get critical information that you need to know concerning that customer's need. Secondly, when trying to sell your product or when talking about your product in a sales conversation with your client and customers, you talk about the features and talk about the benefit. These things will arouse interest and desires in your customers. Talk about how the product was designed, how it was built, and the rest of it. Then the third thing is also to talk about how the product will benefit your customers, how with these features and how with this design or if your product features benefit your customers. Always align the product features and benefits to what your customer actually needs, what will drive him to buy, what will motivate him to buy. You give us examples of words that you can use. For example, said when describing a widescreen television, you might say, because of this rear screen projection device, which is the product feature, you can see from everywhere in the room. That is the product benefit, which means which means that the whole family can enjoy the movie at home. That is the customer benefit. So these are ways in which you can tell our customers about our product, aligning their features and also the benefits to these customers. You define it as the most important presentation. You must continually link your features, the features of your product, into specific benefits for that customer. This is how it's going to benefit you. This is how this feature is going to benefit you. Let me use the 5-way surgeon as an example. The 5-way surge extension comes with universal socket. That is a product feature. How will it be? How is it going to benefit the customer? You can plug different types of plug head in it. That is product benefit. What is the advantage of the separate switches? That you can decide which of the sockets is on. That is the customer benefits. Another one you can use is that using the telling the customer about the materials that the product were manufactured with. Why? It also resists fire and your appliances are safe and they are guarded. So all these are things you can align with the benefits and features of a product. So it is a very fast way to make sales. Linking benefits and features is very, very important. Then the last one, which was explaining here, also talk about your weaknesses. Don't let your competitors talk about your weaknesses. If you know your product has a weakness, always tell it to your clients or to your prospect or or to your customers. Don't let them hear it from outside or from your competitors. Always tell it to them, and also make them understand that to what they need or to what they want to use your product for, it is not necessary. The weakness does not apply to it. So where there are weaknesses in your products and there are strengths in your competitors' products, so don't be afraid to point all these weaknesses and strengths out to them, so that you don't get to hear it from an aggressive competitor outside. So that is just a summary of our book reading this morning. Thank you.
Okay.